Hello, welcome to the Movie Zone channel. Today, we're going to talk about the 2012 film The Wall. The movie begins with a young woman named Fro writing in a journal on November 5th. She's been trapped in a cabin for several months and has decided to write a complete account of her experience. It all started in May when Fro came to this cabin for a vacation with two friends and their dog, Lynx. Since Fro had never had a pet before, she was a bit afraid of the dog. When they finally arrived at the cabin, they dropped their things, and her friends decided to go to a nearby village pub. Fro was very tired, so she decided to stay home with Lynx instead of going to the bar. She was a little bored and sat down, and although Lynx tried to comfort her at first, he then turned away and seemed to be watching her. She spends the day thinking about her situation and smoking a lot. When she looks at the dog, Lynx turns away, refusing to look at her. Eventually, she falls asleep. The next day, Fro wakes up to find Lynx scratching a wall by the door. She realizes he wants to go out and lets him outside. As she checks the house, she notices her friends haven't returned. Fearing something has happened to them, Fro takes Lynx and starts walking toward the village where the pub is. Suddenly, she hears Lynx make a noise and runs toward him. It seems he's run into some kind of barrier, but there's nothing nearby that he could have hit. As Fro continues walking forward, Lynx decides to stop following her and turns back. After taking a few more steps, Fro suddenly hits an invisible wall. She is very confused and touches it with her hand, realizing it's an invisible barrier that won't let her go forward. At this moment, she hears a strange noise but quickly realizes it's nothing but her own heartbeat. Since there was no warning that something like this existed, Fro can't figure out what's going on. She waits for a while, but no one from the village comes to investigate this strange thing. No matter how much she pushes, she can't move forward. So she decides to go back. As she walks along the road, she finds a farm where two men are coming out, but because of the invisible wall, she can't talk to them. No matter how loudly she shouts, the people on the other side can't hear her. She also realizes the people in that house seem to be frozen, though the water in the tap is still running. Finally, Fro gives up on her efforts and decides to walk back to the cabin. Fro goes back to the cabin and starts smoking, realizing that Lynx is now her only companion. She refuses to accept this, running back toward the road and fruitlessly pushing against the barrier again. Unable to comprehend what's happening, she returns home and falls asleep. Suddenly, she hears a strange noise. She tries to go outside to investigate, but to her surprise, when she opens the door, she finds that the invisible wall has moved and is now trapping her inside the house. Fro wakes up screaming, realizing it was just a nightmare. Lynx comes over to comfort her. She goes to the door again and puts her hand out to confirm that it was only a dream. Then she decides to go outside. Back in the present, Fro writes in her journal that she has no memory of what she did that day. She feels like her mind isn't her own due to this shift in reality. She walks around the cabin, takes her friends' belongings, and starts to survey the area. The couple at the farm still hasn't moved, and she now understands that they are dead. The same thing has happened to the villagers. As she thinks about her friends, she wonders if she should have gone to the pub with them, so she could have at least died with them. At that moment, Lynx starts barking and runs off. Fro tries to follow him and finds that he has discovered a cow. At first, she is afraid of it and hides, but then she approaches the cow and slowly befriends it. She brings the cow back to the cabin and spends the whole night milking it. As she looks at the cow, she realizes the animal is a blessing but also a huge burden, as she now has to care for it. The next morning, Fro gets into her friend's car and speeds toward the village, believing she can use the car's momentum to break through the invisible wall. She finds another abandoned car on the other side of the barrier, which gives her new hope. Unfortunately, her plan fails completely. The car smashes into the barrier. She gets out, ignoring her bleeding wounds, and touches the wall, pondering its purpose. For the next 10 days, Fro tries to come up with a plan to get past the barrier, but nothing works. She finally faces reality, no one is coming to find her. Heartbroken, she collapses onto the bed. She even considers ending her life but suddenly remembers that her friends had completely filled the storeroom with food, expecting to stay in the cabin for a long time. She decides not to take her life and to live on as a tribute to their memory. Among the supplies, she finds a large amount of oil and a huge pile of potatoes. Fro takes the potatoes outside and starts her own potato farm. Lynx helps her by continuously digging holes in the ground. As the days pass, Fro finds herself constantly checking the time, turning a clock every morning and using a calendar to keep track of how much time has gone by. On the 30th day of the month, it rains heavily all day, so she decides to stay inside. Suddenly, she hears a strange sound from outside. Grabbing a knife, she goes to investigate, only to find a very wet cat. She decides to adopt it, and now she has 3 pets: Lynx, the cow, and the cat. Although Lynx was aggressive toward her at first, he is now her only true friend. Eventually, Fro decides to try hunting. She has never used a gun before, and when she tries to shoot a deer that comes near, the recoil is so powerful that it knocks her backward, and the deer runs away in fear. As she continues to walk around, she finds the abandoned car again and decides to check its radio. Many of the channels don't work, but she finds one that is still playing music. She takes the radio along with a map and decides to use it to reach a mountain valley. Lynx joins her, and they walk for hours until they finally discover an abandoned truck. Fro tries to get to the truck, but unfortunately, the barrier stops her, and she can't reach it. They are forced to turn back. After much exploration using the map, Fro now knows the exact location of the barrier by heart. This allows her to use shortcuts to reach the valleys, so she doesn't have to leave her pets alone for days at a time. Sometimes, Fro finds other houses, but they're always empty. At least she's able to take useful items from them. On a very hot day, she and Lynx lie in the grass, listening to the birds sing. For the first time since she's been trapped, her mind is at peace, and she feels a deep connection to nature. This gives her the courage to try hunting again. This time, however, she feels immense guilt. She knows she needs the deer meat to survive, but she can't sleep that night because the sound of the deer's painful cries echoes in her ears. She can't even bring herself to write about her first kill in her journal because the memory disgusts her so much. The thunder and lightning keep her awake all night. The next morning, she hears a sound from the cabin and opens the door to find that her cat has given birth. There is only one kitten, and it's completely white. Fro names the kitten Muthu, which means pearl, because of its color. The kitten, who was initially quiet, eventually becomes very mischievous. Fro realizes that she no longer thinks about herself. Her old professional life has been completely replaced by the responsibility of caring for her animals. On July 20th, Fro begins cutting hay in the fields. Lynx helps her, but her hands are sore, and her body aches. She works tirelessly every day, cutting the hay and carrying the bundles back to the cabin. On her way back one day, she checks the farm again, but the invisible barrier is still there. Because of the weather and how exhausted she is, it takes her several weeks to finish cutting all the hay. Fro finally understands how difficult it is just to survive. She breaks down and cries but no longer considers suicide because she doesn't want to leave her animals behind. She becomes very depressed and doesn't leave the cabin for 2 weeks. When she finally returns to the forest, she finds fruits and vegetables on the trees. She gathers enough food to last through the entire winter, much to the delight of her pets. One day, Fro sees strange things hanging from the trees and becomes terrified, but it's just another nightmare. She loves spring, but she has trouble sleeping, and the nightmares become a daily occurrence. She gets a fever and is bedridden for days. Lynx stays by her side, which helps to ease her depression. He no longer growls at her, and Fro lovingly hugs and pets him. In the present day, Fro reveals that Lynx is no longer with her, but she still walks around the area, talking to him as if he's still there. Then, in the past, on October 27th, it started to snow for the first time, but it only lasted a few days. After that, the wind started to blow all around, so the sound never stopped throughout the night. Because of this, Fro couldn't get any sleep at all. Eventually, when Fro went outside again, she saw that the white cat had died outside. Even though her heart was broken, she buried the kitten in the garden with Lynx by her side. After that, in the middle of winter, Fro saw a deer near her and prepared to shoot it, but she really couldn't do it. Because she now understands that she is the only one who can comprehend what is right and wrong in this forest that surrounds her. So, she finally decides to grant it sanctuary. In the cabin, Fro is seen petting Bella every day. She thinks of Bella like a sister. Since Bella's stomach is very big, Fro starts to wonder if she is pregnant. Eventually, Fro has no other choice but to go hunting again. So, even though she kills and butchers the deer, the sound of its heartbeat echoes in her ears all night, and she can't get a minute's sleep. On January 11th, Fro sees that Bella has some bleeding. Because of this, she watches her all day. In the evening, she helps Bella give birth. The cold gets worse little by little, and the surroundings start to fill with snowstorms. This causes Fro to get depressed again. But when the winter ends, Lynx reminds her to get out of bed and go outside. So, when she comes out and looks at the valley, she forgets the memory of when she thought about ending her life. After winter passes, Fro decides to go to another cabin in the meadows. So, on May 25th, she gathers all her animals and starts walking with them to the new house. After seeing the beautiful meadows, Fro gets hope for the future again. It seems that she has been living in this valley ever since. She also watches the stars at night and looks at the beautiful valley during the day. Since her memories are very happy these days, it seems she hasn't written about this in her diary. For the first time since being trapped, her mind feels a great sense of relief. On October 16th, Fro starts to write notes again, saying that she spends her time gathering firewood for the house. She doesn't remember much from those days. She also finds a note written in her own handwriting on December 4th, but she has no memory of actually writing it. When the snow starts to fall again, Fro starts to think about a lot of things. She thinks that she and these animals have to live their lives against their will. One day, she sees a white crow flying around her house. It seems this crow has been ostracized by the black crows. Fro believes that white crows are beautiful. So she doesn't like the other crows discriminating against it at all. So every time the crow comes to eat, she always feeds it. Over the next 2 years, Fro has been living in the valley, and she no longer remembers her old life or has any hope of being rescued. In early June, she decides to move to a new house with her animals, hoping it will bring some relief to her mind. Unfortunately, unlike the first time she moved, her mind finds no relief this time. One afternoon, Fro and Lynx are on a walk and, as they return home, Lynx hears something and immediately runs toward the sound. Fro follows him and is horrified to find 2 men killing her calf with an axe. Lynx attacks one of the men to stop them, while Fro runs back to the house to get her gun. When she returns, she finds that the man has killed Lynx. Enraged, Fro shoots and kills the man. With a broken heart, she embraces Lynx's body and carries him to the house to bury him nearby. The cow, Bella, finds her dead calf and cries out in grief. After burying Lynx, Fro pushes the man's body off a cliff without any remorse, as she no longer feels any emotion. She decides to move to another house with Bella and Mutu. Fro quickly gets back to work, and she realizes that without her friend, she will have to be alone with her own thoughts. In the present, Fro says that she still remembers her friend and that she takes care of her animals with great love, holding on to their memories. She finishes her final note on February 25th because she has nothing more to write. The movie ends as she takes a deep breath, accepts her life, and goes outside to feed the white crow.